Hello, YouTube. And you can see I'm in a lovely hotel, shooting a little short film this week. And conveniently, for this Q&A, it's a good starting off question because Mr. Username Some Person asks, what do you usually do in preparation, pre-production, for short film slash feature? Well, firstly, it's very useful to get a hold of a script. It's very useful to also talk to the director. A lot of kind of preparation for films is all about just getting, I don't know, it's just trying to suss out what's actually going to go down on the day, basically. So it's a lot of location scouting, which I've already kind of touched on in terms of what to get there. And otherwise, then just trying to get a bit more detail from the script. What you want to do is basically get, if I grab it, and you see the messy bed already. Oh, and do you like my new t-shirt, Matt? And then Soundrolling? Huh? Little cool birthday present, huh? So, anyway, you'd have the script, and then you'd basically, just get involved with, going through stuff. So at the top of every kind of scene, there would be, whether it's internal or external, there would be the name of the location, and there would be the time. And so let's just break those three things down. So internal or external, you need to know how much control you have over that location, and if you don't, you need to suss out what control you don't have over. For instance, in this film, we're shooting in a kind of live, there's a live kind of event going on while we're filming. We're allowed to film there and stuff, but obviously that uncontrolled element of people is obviously a factor. Stuff like music that we can't get turned off, music that we can get turned off. And day or night just depends on basically how loud a location's going to be. If it's an exterior, the night scene is going to be different from the day scene. The road might be busier, might be not. It all depends on the breakdown of what you're going to get. It'll usually give you a description of the characters as well and what they're usually wearing. And anything that they're kind of interacting with in terms of props is also useful to just try and get as wild tracks as well. I've also had a lovely conversation with sound designer, sound editor extraordinaire, Mr. Payam, and who I've worked with a few times before actually, which is great. And so he was just getting across his concerns, being a short film, obviously budget restraints, all that kind of stuff. So you try and get as much on the location as possible, because seconds on set save hours in post. And but as this is of course a live forum for everyone to talk about everything to do with sound or freelancing or anything else, get in the comments below. And I think there's some new like crazy options on here for designing this live video, which is pretty cool. Program live. So get in the comments. I don't know, Ivo, you must have some questions. Apart from like, it's a great shirt. The whole point of this is to me just share my opinion. I think it's very important as we go forward in this information age and all that kind of stuff to add a bit more context, get a bit more kind of, I don't know, conversation that's going on around one point. So it kind of may as well be me. And you can just, whatever my opinion is, it'll just be, my thoughts, and then we'll start a conversation and we'll try and get some stuff done, basically. So ask me stuff. Ask me away. If you haven't already, again, while people are getting in those comments, if you haven't already, go to soundrolling.com / I think it's search blog or something. Oh yeah, my internet doesn't work very well on here, but it works well on my phone, which is good. So if you go into soundrolling.com / live-QA, then you're going to be able to see all the individual questions that are asked, all split up really nicely into separate blog posts. And also, after this video, and if you're still watching the video replay or whatever, you can go to the description and you can click on the little timestamps and you'll skip straight to the place you want to be. Okay, so how can we help inform budget directors, producers to actually use sound editors? Bad film festival tonight making me ask why. So how can you inform? I mean, it's all a very I think it's very useful to try and get all these sound people on at once. I guess informing them about cost. You need to. A lot of producers are not aware about things like Foley, especially this kind of short film level. A lot of people are not aware about the actual work that goes into it. A lot of people, I guess, with a lot more experience in picture editing, think that it's very much kind of just the shot, and then there's just the dialogue, and there's just whereas the actuality is that there's obviously thousands and thousands of files. Especially for feature films, like thousands and thousands of files that go into all of this kind of stuff. And so you've just got to inform them of basically the labor, the amount of time that you're doing. And also I would say that the more tangible elements that people get across, such as like obviously if a camera costs X amount of money, a microphone costs X amount of money, you need to kind of be able to kind of justify the tangible value. What's up, Carl? You need you need to approach the tangible value stuff, which is I've invested so much of this, that, and the other. And then you need to explain the importance of the intangible stuff. So a lot of people would be like, why do I need Foley for this, that, and the other? And if they don't know, you have to educate them. It's all, again, about kind of education of what your department can do and how it adds to the overall product. And then from a budget standpoint, they're going to go, well, a camera gives me a certain percentage of production value for cost. Although, funnily enough, sound is probably the kind of cheapest department in a way, because of the amount that you're paying for the overall product can be really transformative. If you get a really good, for instance, I don't know how much it costs to get the sound of Wall-E going, but it becomes a signature thing. It becomes a really tangible thing, and it brings the character to life. Again, that's more for animation, so maybe for live action, it's a similar thing with the sound design of the space and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that kind of answers. It's a very wide question depending on the type of stuff, but it just comes down to education and not being afraid to kind of get involved, and generally, because you're passionate about your topic, just talk about it and get things going. So, Mr. Sujo, will be first time with 688. Do you have any things or tips to watch out for? What I would do is I would go to my videos on the Sound Device 688 and the Sound Device 664, because they're pretty much the same recorder. There's just a few different things on them, and watch those because I don't have time to go through the whole sound devices. Maybe I'll do a whole separate live video just on questions about the 688. But I think I'll save that. I'll save that for another video. You can look again if you go to soundrolling.com/live-QA. Then that was probably backwards for you maybe, but then you can get more information from there and more actual tutorials and see the device. Oh, you've watched them all. Well, then I'll just have to do some more. Tips to watch out for, I don't know. It's a very good mixer. You can do a lot of stuff with it. Just make sure you know what you want to do. Just check that manual and practice beforehand. If you want to get all your track names set up beforehand so you can easily switch, all that kind of stuff, then yeah, it just makes a lot more sense. So, Scott, it's uncommon for me to be on shoots where my gear is worth nearly or just as much as the camera. It's not uncommon. Yeah, these days as well, that's the other thing. A lot of people, obviously with the Sony A7Ss or anything of that kind of make, etc. The cameras have come down in such a price that, again, they think proportionately camera's always more expensive than sound. It actually comes mainly down to the labor, I find, most of the time. Especially if you're shooting on a C300, but then you have 5 people mic'd up with Electrosonics, then that's pretty much like even 4 Electrosonics, that's pretty much the same price, not including a recorder, not including this, that, and the other. So I guess another good tip for almost if you have to, it's not a good omen obviously, but if you have to justify your rate or your gear rate or that kind of thing, and you have better gear than what they're used to, again, you have to kind of educate, explain why, explain the tangible cost of it all. And a lot of people don't realize that obviously how much a microphone is. Everyone who doesn't know about it thinks that a microphone is the same price as a 416, Still not realising that a 416 costs £1,000 plus, maybe, depending on where you get it from. So it's all about education, my friends, and this is again what this is all about as well, hopefully. Giving my thoughts, trying to get more people talking about it, having a bit of a central talk that isn't kind of the classic forum bashing mentality. Although you are free to bash me as much as you like. So let's go to more questions, and we've got a lot of people today. I'm definitely going to do later recording sessions and try and get a lot of you over in the USA. And now we've gone forward an hour. As well, so there's even bigger gap, I think. Okay, Duffid asks, mixer plus recorder versus all-in-one unit. Obviously, completely depends. I would say depending on what you can afford in terms of your recorder or your mixer, and depending if you even need a mixer or if you just need a recorder. So it depends on your solution. Oftentimes you don't need to mix if you're just recording sound effects, for instance. So in that case you just need a recorder. If you have a Zoom, maybe you want a stronger preamp for one of your things. Maybe there's something else you want to put it through first. Or let's say you have a recorder with less channels, then you need a mixer in front of it to make it sound better. For instance, your recorder could be a camera, and so then you need a mixer. But if for argument's sake, let's say they're exactly the same, if there was a separate mixer that was really good and a separate recorder that was just as good, or there was one that was all together and just as good, then I would obviously choose the all-in-one solution just because it makes sense. The 688, again, it's important to stress that it's more of a mixer rather than a recorder. It's basically like a really good mixer with a kind of more limited recording function, whereas like the 788, for instance, was more of a recorder, and then you could get an adapter for a mixer. So I think that's a more interesting argument to play, and it's definitely more useful to have a mixer recorder for my kind of like live circumstances than it is have a very good recorder with not a very good mixer. So I need to be able to mix the cameras, I need to be able to mix to multiple devices, and so having that customizability in terms of a mixer recorder is very, very useful. But obviously, depends on your needs. So hopefully that answers that. I would go with the all-in-one solution. I think that overall is going to be better. Again, depending on costs, this, that, and the other, whether you migrate straight up or whether you try and just pay for a better mixer, but you can't afford a better mixer recorder. There's different ways to do it, but it's definitely going to be more useful to have everything just consolidated, just from my standpoint as well. And I will just take this short little break in between questions to say that you can also share this video about, if you share it on the Facebook groups or, I don't know, anyone else that you know that is interested in sound. I'm always interested in trying to get more people on. Again, I don't know everything. I've done about 400 projects now, like 20 feature films. I've done about 170 short films, probably 100 and something creative content things. I'm a super nerd. I like to keep all those kind of stats. Keeps me kind of motivated to just like playing a game. You just you want to keep going, keep collecting more points. So yeah, it's good. So yeah, share this about, like this video as well. Thumbs up actually help in the search results. And again, as always, you can go to soundrolling.com/blog, I think, /blog/Q&A. I think it's, yeah, .com/live-Q&A, and you'll be able to find individual answers as well as search and all sorts of magic funky stuff. Okay, so Carl asks, easy one just for fun. What's your favorite method of cleaning tape or residue off your cables? Interesting question. I think I like using more tape and sticking it. Residue, I don't know. When do I clean? A lot of people say that alcohol solutions are really good at removing it. If you're thinking more like an RM11, don't usually tape down cables too much. And if you really want to be kind of really neat about it, I guess, what you would do is you'd put the tape over, but then you could always use a strip, reverse it on, and then you're going to be able to essentially like not have as much tape on the cable. But in terms of cleaning them, just a scrubbing brush and yeah, a bit of soap and water usually does the trick. Although I don't run into that problem a lot, I have to say. gaffer tape, all that kind of stuff usually stays away. Cleaning RM11s, I actually just keep sticking it on. I never really clean it. I use stickies quite a lot, but you can just use more tape or even maybe blue tack sometimes, I guess. Maybe scrape it a little. Again, you don't want to cut into the plastic, so it's kind of a tricky one actually. But it was just for fun, so it's good. Can you do some specific tutorials on TA3 input output on the 664 or similar SD products? What do you mean by tutorial? They just are that kind of shape. Treat it as a normal XLR, and yeah, on the 664 or that kind of thing, they do exactly the same as an XLR. They're just smaller. So I don't know what you mean in terms of tutorials. Again, it's more the functions of the actual mixer that maybe you want a tutorial on. And in that case, then you want to have a look at how the inputs work, how the outputs work, and kind of customizing all those together. So let's go. We need more lav mic tutorials, hiding, avoiding all the crackles as well. So what I would do for that, I guess, as a quick one, I need to do a whole separate video on this as well, I think. Let's just move the camera down there, get my name tag in, very important. And so what I would do for miking, hiding, generally do COS 11s. I've got an RM11, so the RM11 is a kind of, yeah, it's a rubber mount. I usually do a sticky to it. A lot of the times I'm not actually sticking to the actual person, I'm sticking it to the top. It's great with patterned t-shirts and things because it actually breaks up if there's any kind of bulge. Or any kind of, depending on how tight the t-shirt is. This one's not too tight, you know. I try to look good, but no, not too tight. And then I need to be honest, experiment with more things like the mic strap. I think that'd be really interesting. So you can get a strap and clip it round. Generally, shirts are really useful. I have done videos before on how to like mic up a polo shirt, and so I would just try and use that technique as well for any shirts. I think that's really good, just going in between. A lot of what you'll find in terms of crackling is that you're either not securing the cable enough, because the cable obviously makes cabling noise, or that your actual microphone is sticking a bit too far out or too far in, and so the back is sticking out of the actual mount. So you've got to make sure that your actual microphone's popping out of the RM11, for instance, and then nothing on the back is catching. Things like chest hair, all that kind of stuff is really tough. Sometimes you're just screwed. It's obviously useful, to hide in ties as well, to hide under collars sometimes. That works really well. I guess the problem is with doing these mic kind of videos is just the amount of places you can hide them is infinite, and getting them to not rustle is potentially always a challenge. Cotton is always better than like polyester or wool, for instance. It's less dense. So yeah, I'm more and more, I'm just spending a lot more time like getting my booming right, doing double booming, and trying to really just use radio mics as a fallback, or as a plant mic, for instance. They definitely always have their use, of course, and again, it's worth investing, just testing on yourself. As silly as that may sound, a lot of you obviously have time to watch me right here, when you could be trying to obviously figure out. And it's what I will do, but I will obviously video it, and then eventually it will pop up on my YouTube channel. So I hope that helps as a rough kind of guide. It kind of needs to be a second thing. Believe it or not, WD-40. So apparently, Mr. Scott V, says that WD-40 works really well for getting tape residue off cables. So some of you might find that useful as well. Do let me know in the comments later if it worked. Again, I take no responsibility for any cables that were harmed in the making of this. Goo-Gone. I've heard a lot of Goo-Gone and Goo-Gone Citrus to clean cables. I've heard a lot of Windex. That also works really well for boom poles apparently, although water is probably good as well. You just want to make sure that it dries out, and you don't want to screw those things too tight. You see a lot of lav mics in the UK mounted upside down when exposed. Do you do this as well when hiding them? I personally don't. I guess the things, when they're mounted upside down in terms of clipped outside, it's because if people blow down or that kind of thing, it takes away that, especially in live television. Mounting upside down, maybe it mounts upside down if it's on the collar. Again, it's an omnidirectional mic, so as long as so the microphone itself will pick up from any angle. It's just making sure that where you've actually hidden it, for instance, if you feed down the back, and then go all the way round and down, the likelihood is that if you keep it down, then having that turn around gives you less of the extra wire and that kind of thing. So it depends. I don't know. I personally don't. I tend to go down the front quite a lot. Depends on the get up and the gig. So hopefully that kind of answers that question as well. Also, we have K-Tech Boom Shine. So just to make this a whole separate section in terms of cleaning boom poles, K-Tech Boom Shine is pretty good. You can use Gugon Citrus for cleaning cables. You can also use like Windex for cleaning boom poles and cables. WD-40 works well on many cables. Again, it won't work well on your boom pole though, so don't clean it with that. Oily boom pole is not very good, although you might want to replace the oil in between the joints every now and again. And it's obviously tricky if you're filming in locations where it's lots of sand, lots of dust. You may have to unscrew them every now and again and just give them a bit of a re-oil, bit of TLC as it's otherwise known. So we've had lots of people on the one today. It's been 20 minutes, so maybe I'll call it a night tonight, but we've got a lot of questions, and already over the last, this is episode 5 I think, as it's now formally known. And yeah, so we've had already about 20 questions, not including today's one. So that's pretty good, 5 decent questions every time, covering all sorts of topics. So if you like this video, you can give it the thumbs up, and when it's uploaded as a video, more people will be able to find it. I'll get working on those time signatures as well, so in the description you'll be able to search. But probably, most importantly, is that if I can figure out, I don't think I can do it on this, but if you can go to soundrolling.com/live-QA, you're going to be able to find the individual questions from all the stuff we talked about today. Maybe I'll look at even getting this on as some sort of podcast. That might be useful. There's so many things I need to do. There is so little time. But I am going to, make sure that it happens. Yeah, so until next time, ladies and gents, have a good one. And I will see you later.